Hi, this is the assignment 3 part 4, and this is a full tutorial for our bookstore web application for COMP9321. The bookstore application is a web app that allows users to search and perform transactions on publications. The software used to create the assignment is Eclipse to develop for the Java IDE and Apache Tomcat to host the server. We also used MySQL to store the database for the publications. So, starting with the tutorial, in order to create the assignment, we used the Java Eclipse interface, and the very first thing we're going to do before anything is we're going to create a new dynamic web application, dynamic web project, in which that's essentially the package and the basis for all of our code. In the dynamic web project, in the project name, we can just start with a test project, and make sure that the target runtime is set to our Apache Tomcat server. Set to our Apache Tomcat server, the dynamic web module, and then click next. We have, don't need to touch anything here, default output folder, or great. And finally, make sure we tick the generate web.xml, as that dictates the path of all of our files in the project. And so now we have a new dynamic web project. So the first thing we're going to do is to create a very for the web page to demonstrate something, to present something. And to do that, we create a new JSP file, which is going to be used. We create a new JSP file here. The JSP file is essentially a file that stores all the presentation layer logic, where you store the where you write the HTML files, and for the actual web page to present it. And first, we're just going to call it the user.jsp. And as you can see here, we have the format seems already set out. So we're just going to start with a web page that this demonstrates hello, and to run the actual project, we can right click and run on server, select the right server host, click finish, and let it do the magic. So as you can see here, we hit the error of HTTP status 404 not found, and the reason for that error is because we haven't configured the path of the file in the web XML. So as you can see here, we're just going to add the user.jsp as the the introduction file that the project will be trying to find when you launch it on server. And we run the project again, and we will see that so as you can see here now that the web page is loading successfully. So this is essentially you create the JSP files, you create Java files, and the JSP files for the front end layer, and now we're going to create a controller layer, a controller file, which is we're going to use a servlet file. The servlet file essentially acts as a controller that lets you control which JSP file is being displayed, as well as being the middle ground that sends requests to the database to load the information to the JSP file. So we're going to create a Java servlet file called the router servlet, and as you can see here with the router servlet Java, we have two different requests we can edit, which one is the get request and one is the post request. We're going to be mostly using the post request in this project because it's the more secure way of fetching data, as the data does not get displayed in the URL. So we're going to edit the function in post, And the first thing we're going to do is to retrieve any parameter of that the request action would send. As you can see here, so we're going to create a variable called action, and action will be the parameter, whatever parameter that is sent through each new request through HTTP, that is named action. And next step, we are going to retrieve the current session in place for the current web page. A session is essentially a way to store information and data to be maintained through all the different pages and make sure that the data is preserved. And to do that, we'll just simply create a variable called session with the state of HTTP session and use request.getSession to retrieve it. And essentially, that is how you, and through running in the Java file, now we can add code to the post sections and to control whatever each action does for different JSP files. And as you can see here, this is our Java file for our web application. It essentially checks for each new action names and performs the corresponding functions according to whichever action request that's being sent. Now, for our project, we used a MVC model, which is the model view controller design pattern. Essentially, what it does, the idea of MVC is that it separates the business logic and the presentation layer, so that you can edit code successfully and make sure that the code doesn't get jumbled, and you'll be able to tell where the problem is from should an error occur. And so we used the router servlet as the main controller file. We used the JSP files as the view files to present the pages, which gets controlled by the router servlet files. As you can see here, this is the HTML file that actually presents the page when it's being created. And the router servlet essentially acts as the controller between front end and back end. We also used various data access objects and database load objects in order to connect to our database in MySQL, which is then controlled by the router servlet whenever JSP sends a request, JSP file or the user sends a request to the database. Now we're going to demonstrate features of our bookstore web application. And so this is the front page of our bookstore, and it presents a series of features where the user essentially can search and perform transactions on various publication items. The first thing the user has to do is to log in. Here we're going to log in the identity as a seller with our password that we've set before. Once we've logged in, we can perform a quick search on various items. Let's say with the book we're looking for here is data flow analysis. Press search, and we can see the search results being presented here of all publication items that have the keyword data flow analysis in their title. The user can also perform an advanced search where you're able to enter many more filters such as node, address, journal, volume, CD-ROM, site, pages, to provide a more comprehensive search to find the specific item. Once we have found the items that we're looking for, what we can do is add that to our shopping cart here. And once it's been added, we can see it in our shopping cart here that the item is being here. We can also then press checkout and enter our credit card information in order to complete the purchase action. As a seller, sellers can also upload their own item into the database. so we can that then the seller can sell. Publication title, we're gonna set the publication title as JSON book. JSON book. Set the author as JSON. Price, set the price, the publication year, and finally a link to where to present an actual URL for the item. And now, as we do a quick search for our JSON book, make sure the type is correct, and we can see that the JSON, as we've added before, the JSON book item is now here. We can then again we will add this item to our shopping cart, and here it is again. And finally, the final feature of this web application is you can perform a graph search to see the different relationship between different items. So here we will search for, the item we'll be searching for is any publications that's published in the year of 1997. And as you can see here, the website will then present a graph results, essentially a visualization of the data presented of journals and publication data items that are associated with the year of 1997. So that finishes our demonstration of assignment and all of the features related to it.